So fine, so let's go with the reaction of metals now. So first one is the haloalkanes or the haloarenes reaction with the metal now. So first reaction we'll talk about the Wurtz-Fittig reaction. Can you just quickly write on the reaction? The general reaction we'll try to write on this. Okay, in the presence of dry ether, what happens, right? So any aryl halide, when we treat with the sodium, right, in the presence of the alkyl halide and dry ether, so what exactly happens? So basically your goal in the Wurtz reaction is to replace, because it's a haloarene, so it will go through the substitution reactions. So X has to get replaced with the alkyl group. So what kind of alkyl group will replace? We'll try to understand. First write down this reaction. Yeah, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Just write down this reaction, Wurtz-Fittig reaction. This reaction you write down, then I'll explain to you. This reaction you write down. Okay. So here haloarenes is treated with the sodium in the presence of the alkyl halide and the dry ether.
Okay.
Okay, clear this part? Okay. Now what exactly happens now? Let's try to understand in this part. Okay. Right. So since we give the metal, right, because our reaction is what? Reaction is with the metal only, right? Right. So when we do the reaction with the metal here, so in the presence of alkyl halide also we give. So here the two bonds are going to break right now. One is with the C into X. C and X bond has to get broken, right? The carbon present on the aryl compound, the CX bond has to get broken, right? Because you get in the presence of metal, so metal has to basically forms the ions, because it has to give the electrons. So and it is easy to form the Na plus ions, right? So Na plus ions will combine with the X halogen atom. Clear? Now,
Yes.
Since the Na plus ions combines this part, so what exactly when the bond gets broken with the CX, so still the X part, the C part still remains. The carbon, X takes the electrons from the carbon and then becomes an anion, and the carbon develops what? A slight positive charge, isn't it? Carbon develops slight positive charge. So the alkyl group, which is there in the CH3 side with the RX group, so this RX bond also gets broken, right? RX gets broken, and then the R forms the bond with the carbon, which is having the positive ion on the aryl compound. Okay, so that's why the aryl compound gets formed. So basically when you make the reaction with the metals, so what happens, the halogens from the aryl halide will come out and it will get replaced with the alkyl group. Clear? So whichever the alkyl group you want to replace, that you have to replace with the RX. Clear?
Yes, sir.
And then you get the compound, that is the NaX, and the alkyl, whichever the compound you want to get it, so it becomes a benzene along with the alkyl group, right? So it can methyl benzene, you can create any kind of benzenes now. Propyl benzene, anything we can create it, right? So that is with the Wurtz-Fittig reaction. So this reaction is called the Wurtz-Fittig reaction. Clear?
Okay.
Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's go to the Fittig's reaction. What is called the Fittig reaction now? Right? Fittig reaction also we need to understand. So in the Fittig reaction, we do with the sodium. Just write out the another reaction, Vijay. Then I will tell you how it is done.
Okay.
So second reaction, just write it down. You have the Fittig reaction is simple. It's just like the Woods reaction. Remember, in the formation of the alkane, we use the Woods reaction. There also we treated with the metal, right? Now, aryl halides also give the analogous compounds treated with the sodium in the dry ether, in which the two aryl groups are joined together, and it's called the Fittig reactions. Now, what is the Fittig reaction? Let's try to understand. Remember that when we discussed the Woods reaction, when you treat with the sodium, so only the even number of the carbon atom products gets formed, right? When you react methyl with the sodium, so it'll, alkyl halide, when you react with the sodium, it's going to form what? It's going to form the ethane. So even number of the compounds will get formed, right? So here also we are taking the two aryl halides and the reaction with the 2 sodium. What we'll get now, you see here the X is getting replaced, so it becomes a diphenyl plus sodium NaX. So this reaction is the Fittig reaction, just is analogous to the alkyl halide reactions. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Just analogous to the alkyl halide reaction. So 2Na plus 2 aryl halides in the presence of dry ether, it gives a diphenyl plus NaX. Clear?
Yeah.
Understood? Any questions, any doubts?
No, sir. It's clear.
Clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the, the example part. So you've written this part, right? Fittig reaction is clear to you. Is this similar to your alkyl halide reaction with the sodium metal? Okay.
Yes, it's clear.
Now let's go to the index question 10.7. Let's try to understand this part. So first read out this part, then I'll explain to you.
Okay, sir.
Just read out this so that you understand the question, and then I'll explain to you the details, how to go about it.
Okay.
Question is clear, Jay?
Not really, sir.
Okay, no problem. So which alkyl halide from the following pairs would you expect to react more rapidly by an SN2 mechanism? Explain your answer. See, you remember SN2 reaction? In the SN2 reaction, what we had, SN2 reaction was that you need to slow step. First step is that you need to make the carbocation bond stable, because in SN1 it was faster, making and breaking was happening simultaneously, but in SN2 it's not like the reaction, right?
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what will happen now in the my mistake. I guess SN2 reaction was the making and breaking was happening simultaneously. SN1 reaction was the slow step, where the first it has to break and then it has to form the bond. Right? SN2 was a simultaneous reaction happening. Now we need to understand in the SN2 in the this part, first part, where is the first is the bromobutane or the 2-bromobutane, which will do the SN2 reaction faster, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in this case, remember that part, when the because the nucleophile is going to attack from the back side, isn't it? SN2 reaction, nucleophile is going to come attack the back side, and the X halogen group also has to come out from the front side. So the heavier the structure, more difficult for the nucleophile to attack. So more heavier structure means what? If it is basically if it is more than 2 degree or 3 degree, it's more the branch structures are there, then it is difficult to go to SN2 reaction. The more primary it is, the more easier the SN2 reaction can happen. Is it clear?
Okay. Yes, sir.
So between the, now which is more easier now? 1 degree is the bromobutane and 2 degree is the 2-bromobutane. So which will go through the SN2 reaction faster? So between the 1-bromobutane and 2-bromobutane, which will go SN2 reaction faster now? Now you tell me. Which has the bigger structure now between bromobutane and 2-bromobutane?
Bromobutane.
2-bromobutane. Because the carbon connected to the bromine is a 2 degree, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So 2. So it's a more structured form, no?
Yes,
So,
sir.
but bromine connected to the alkyl group is 1-bromobutane. So this is 1 degree. Here is 2 degree. Correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So 1 degree and 2 degree. So 1 degree will go faster SN2 reaction than compared to the 2 degree carbon. Right now, clear?
Yes,
Because
sir.
nucleophile in the 2 degree will have some hindrance to attack the carbon because of the structure. Got it?
Yes, sir.
But it will not have any hindrance in the 1 degree carbon atom. Clear?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay, excellent. Now let's go to the second part now. CH3, CH2, CH, CH2 and then this part. This you can easily tell me now. Which will be, this is a 2 degree and this is a 3 degree.
Yes, sir.
Which-
The second one.
Yes, excellent. Right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Third one. Now you understood, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Third
third
one, I
one.
think it's the first one, right?
Yeah, third one is which will be, so this is 1-bromo 3-methyl butane and other is 1-bromo 2-methyl butane. One is 3-methyl butane, other is 2-methyl butane, correct?
Yeah.
Now in this,
I think
which will be
2-methyl. 2-methyl butane, sir.
2-methyl butane?
Yeah.
Why?
Because there was a lower number.
Okay. No, not like that. Okay, let's understand which will get the less hindrance in this part, Vijay, right? Because
Yeah.
both are, see, when you consider here, both are 1 degree only. Carbon is connected, bromine is connected to carbon, which is connected to another carbon atom. So both are 1 degree only, right?
Yeah.
Both are 1 degree only, right? Now,
Yes, sir.
so here we need to just check that the molecule CH3 molecule, which CH3 molecule is at the greater distance. Which CH3
Okay.
molecule is the greater distance from the carbon. The more closer it is, the more hindrance it will create.
Okay.
The more farther it is away from the 1 degree carbon, the more easier for the nucleophile to come and attack it. Understood now? See, only branch structure is the CH3 here, methyl, which is connected to the carbon atom. The methyl, if it is connected to closer to the carbon atom, which is connected to the bromine, then it will create a more hindrance for the nucleophile. The more further it is away from the 1 degree carbon, more easier for the nucleophile to attack.
Okay.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
So, 1-bromo 3-methyl butane will react faster than compared to the 2-methyl butane. Clear? Any questions? Any doubts?
No, sir. Clear.
Clear, right? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the 10.8 now. In the following pairs of the halogen compounds, which compound undergoes the faster SN1 reaction? Now, SN1 reaction, you remember, Vijay, what happens in SN1 reaction, right? So
Yeah.
it's step by step the SN1 reaction happens. First step is the formation of the carbocation compound, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Carbocation has to form first, right? After that, nucleophile will come and attack it, right? No?
Yes, sir.
And the more stable the carbocation it is, the more easier the SN1 reaction is.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, first one is that you have Cl is connected. That means at the center this carbon is there. Rest with the other place is the different compounds. Okay. And second way you have the CC. That means everything is H. It can be anything basically. C is there, so your bond is C is connected to another CCC. But here C is in between, and then another C, another CCC like this. So we can just find out which is the how to find the which carbon at which degree it is. Correct.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll find out which will go to the SN1 reaction faster.
Okay. I think this one would be the first one, sir, because
Correct,
one's
exactly.
social.
First one will be 3 degree carbon atom, 3 degree carbocations it will form, right? And
Yes,
second
sir.
one, second part it forms a 2 degree carbocation. So 3 degree carbocation is more stable.
Okay, sir.
Correct, no?
Yeah.
Excellent, Vijay. And in this next one, so we have how many this there? So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is a heptane. So 2 chloroheptane and the 1 chloroheptane.
Yeah.
So who will go the faster SN1 reaction?
1 chloroheptane. So it's farther from the main carbon, right?
1 chloroheptane will not go to the SN1 reaction faster because 2 degree will be more stable, no?
Okay, yeah, okay.
2 degree carbon atom will be more stable, Vijay.
Yes, sir.
So 2 degree carbon atom will be more stable than compared to 1 degree carbon atom. Right? So that's why
Yeah.
it will become that will go the SN1 faster. Understood, right? SN1 and SN2. This has to be very clear to you, okay? Because
Yes,
many
sir.
times they will
Yeah.
ask these questions. Right?
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it is clear to you, now let's go to the 10.9 now. 10.9.
Okay.
Yeah. So we need to identify A, B, C, D, E, R and R dash in the following reaction. So what is the reaction he is mentioning? So you have cyclohexane and the Br is connected. So bromocyclohexane plus Mg in the presence of a dry ether. Correct?
Yeah.
So magnesium you are reacting. Magnesium when you are reacting, that means what? Grignard's reagent is
Will
forming.
form, A would be MgBr, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then B would be
A will get formed as a
cyclo-
Mg will get attracted to the Br, so it will become the cyclohexane and the MgBr together. Right?
Okay. Yes,
Cyclohexane MgBr, yeah. And then hydrolysis you do, so magnesium hydroxide will come out and the bromine also will come out. So basically it will become the cyclohexane only then. Right?
Yes, sir.
So A is nothing but the it will be cyclohexane magnesium bromide, right?
Yeah.
Cyclohexyl magnesium bromide, and then B will be cyclohexane only, correct? So it will come out as
Yes.
magnesium. Now next one, RBr plus Mg gives you, in the presence of dry ether, gives you C, and D2O gives a CH3 CH2 this part. So what will happen in this case? Again the same thing.
Can I put RbCH3 CH3?
Yeah, we can put that part, or actually we need to see from this part, Vijay, because you see RBr Mg is there and C and D. So D is basically, when we react with D2O, it forms CH3 CH CH3. So basically 3 carbon atoms are only there, right? No, only 3 carbon atoms are there. So basically 3 carbon atoms is there. So it is D is forming there. So that means Mg has to be present on the second carbon atom. So basically RBr. So RBr is nothing but the alkyl Br, right? So this will be your CH3 CH2 CH3. See, bromine will be present on the second carbon atom. Then only the magnesium can form with the magnesium bromide, right?
Okay.
So it will become the 2-bromopropane. So RBr is nothing but 2-bromopropane. Then reaction with Mg will give you the C will be nothing but 2 this CH3 CH2 CH3 then MgBr, isn't it?
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Then you get the what is that? With the water you are treating, right? Then compound gets formed is D, right?
Yeah.
So compound D, what it does, D gets formed now. CH3 CH2. Yeah, we have to get replaced with the MgBr will come out now, isn't it? So because we are treating with this sodium, so because what we are getting is this 2 part now. From the D, Rx is there, R dash X, yeah, correct. See, till D is clear, no? Now second reaction is R dash X treated with Mg gives you D and hydrolysis E. And same way Rx is also treated with sodium ether. 2 reactions we are forming. So R dash X, got it? So
yes.
R dash X has to be treated with the sodium in the presence of ether. Then this has to be something, because double compound is getting formed. So 3 carbon atoms has to be there, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Then only, because it is forming 6 carbon atom, right? So it has to be twice of this. So basically, yeah. So it will become, no, not 3. So it will become 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is there. So basically 4. 8 compounds is there. So this has to be, R dash will be happening. R dash will be what? It will be the tertiary compound. CH3, C, CH2, CH2 and X. So R dash will be basically 2-methyl propane. 2-methyl propane connected to X. Got it, no? R dash will be 2-methyl propane with the X. Then only the X will come out, and then it forms the that this 2233 tetramethyl butane. And D here, Mg thing will be nothing but the CH3. The E compound will be 2-methyl propane. Because you do hydrolysis, so MgBr will go off. So it will become 2-methyl propane. Clear this part? Not clear?
Yes, sir. The last part wasn't clear. Could you explain that again?
What, Vijay? You want me to say
Could you
it again?
explain yeah.
Okay. So here, this will be R dash. Okay, so let's try to understand this part. So CH3, so here what I'm saying is this part R dash X, no? So here this will be C. I'll just write it down here, okay? CHX, I'll just write it down so that you can just see. CH3 CH3, okay, and CH3 and X will remove it from here. CH3, okay. So Vijay, this is what the R dash will look like. R dash here is CH3, CH3C, X and CH3. You got it?
Yes, sir. Got it.
So that the compound with Na it will get doubled, right? The total number of carbon atom is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is there, so 1, 2, 3, 4. It becomes 8, right?
Yeah.
Even number. But D here will become the MgBr X. So it will become the MgX, and then D hydrolysis you do. So MgX will come out and will become the 2-methylpropane only, E part. E part will become 2-methylpropane only. X will come out.
Okay, yes, sir.
Did you understand?
Yeah.
Clear? Any questions, any doubts?
No, sir. Clear.
Okay, Vijay. Now let's go to the now let's go to the dihalogen compounds now. Clear? Now this little more theory in that part. I think we'll be able to finish this part, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So carbon compounds containing more than one halogen atoms are usually referred as the polyhalogen compounds. Many of these compounds are useful in industry and agriculture. Now some polyhalogen compounds. What are the polyhalogen compounds? Polyhalogen means more than one elements of the halogen groups are added. It can be dichloro, trichloro or tetrachloro, or difluoro, trifluoro or tetrafluoro, dibromo, tribromo or tetrabromo. Clear?
Okay.
So what is called a dichloromethane? So CHCl2. Dichloromethane is widely used as a solvent as a paint remover. Remember that, write down CHCl2, dichloromethane is used as a paint remover. So here we just need to understand the applications. So one is a paint remover, second is propellant in aerosols, third is a process solvent in the drugs, and it's also used for metal cleaning and finishing solvent. Methylene chloride harms the human central nervous system, and exposure to lower levels of methylene chloride in the air can lead to the slightly impaired hearing and the vision. So see, methanol is anyway very dangerous, right? That's called the natural spirit, right? It's called the wood spirit.
Yeah.
So it's very dangerous, right? It can cause you the color, blindness, and it make you person blind. So it's very dangerous. So this methylene chloride is the product of methanes with the chlorine, right? So dichloromethane. So basically it has gone through the substitution reaction, and 2 of the hydrogen is replaced with the chlorine. So that's why methylene chloride or the dichloromethane. So methylene chloride in the air can lead to the slight impaired hearing and the vision, and the high level of methylene chloride in the air causes the dizziness, nausea, tingling, numbness in the fingers and the toes. So in humans, direct skin contact with methyl chloride causes the intense burning and mild redness in the skin, and so it's very dangerous compound. So it can cause the skin burning, mild redness on the skin, and direct contact with eye can burn the cornea. So basically very very hot to burn the cornea also. Trichloromethane. Now chloroform. Chloroform is, you know, the usage now. Chloroform, right? Chemically, chloroform is used as a solvent for the fats, alkaloids, iodine, and other substance. So chloroform is also taken as a solvent. Organic solvent, one of the excessively used solvent is the chloroform. The major use of chloroform today is the production of the freon refrigerant R22. Okay, so this part is important. So we use chloroform is mostly used in the freon refrigerant part to cool. You know? So we require those things in the cooling mechanism. It was once used in the general anesthetic in surgery, but has been replaced by the less toxic, safer anesthetics such as the ether. As might be expected from its use as an anesthetic, inhaling chloroform vapors depresses the central nervous system. See what happens, you might have seen a lot of times, right? The chloroform, when they put on somebody, so it becomes the unconscious, you know. It makes a person unconscious. Breathing about 900 parts of chloroform per million parts of the air for a short time, it can cause the dizziness, fatigue, and the headache. Chronic chloroform exposure may cause the damage to the liver, where the chloroform is metabolized to the phosphine gas, and to the kidneys, and some people develop the soles, which is skin is immersed in the chloroform. Chloroform is slowly oxidized by the air in the presence of light to extremely poisonous gas, and this is called the carbonyl chloride, is also known as phosgene. Okay, right on this reaction, chloroform when react with oxygen gives you the phosgene gas. Phosgene is nothing but COCl2. It's a very extremely poisonous gas. Right on the reaction, chloroform CHCl3 plus O2 in the presence of light gives you the phosgene gas, COCl2. This part is important. So a couple of usage now. The chloroform is used as a highly, when mixed with the air or oxidized with the air, it gives you COCl2 plus HCl. So that becomes a very poisonous, extremely poisonous gas. And chloroform is used to store in the colored bottles, completely filled, so that the air is kept out. So basically we don't have to make it oxidized, right? So chloroform, when you keep it, the moment it comes with the oxygen, it forms the poisonous gas. So that's why chloroform is kept in the dark colored bottles, away from the moisture and the air. Clear?
Yes.
Iodoform. It was used earlier as an antiseptic, but the antiseptic properties of the are due to the liberation of the free iodine and not due to the iodoform itself. Due to its objectionable smell, it has been replaced by the formulations containing the iodine. So basically, iodoform was just earlier used as an antiseptic only, but antiseptic properties are due to the liberation. So all the antiseptic properties are coming because of the liberation of the iodine. So you remember the betadine, right? Betadine is again for the gargling we use, right? So that is also the liberation of iodine only. That dark color betadine solution for the gargling, remember that?
Okay.
Okay, now let's go to the tetrachloromethane or carbon CCl4. CCl4, you know that, right? It is produced in larger quantity for the use in manufacture of the refrigerants and the propellants for the aerosol cans. So whenever the CCl4 comes, that we always link with the refrigerants and the propellants. And it is the harmful gases, right, which depletes the ozone layer. It is also used as the feedstock in the synthesis of chlorofluorocarbons and other chemicals, and the pharmaceutical manufacturing and the general solvent. Until the mid 1980s, it was widely used in cleaning fluid, both in industry as a degreasing agent and the home, a spot remover such as a fire extinguisher. There is some evidence that the exposure to CCl4 can cause the liver cancer in the humans. The most common effects were dizziness, lightheadedness, nausea, vomiting, which can cause the permanent damage to the nerve cells. And in severe cases, these effects can lead rapidly to the stupor, coma, unconsciousness, or the death. So exposure of CCl4 can make the heart beat irregularly or the stop. This chemical may irritate the eyes on the contact, and the CCl4 is released into the air. It rises to the atmosphere and depletes the ozone layer. And depletion of ozone layer is believed to increase the human exposure to the UV rays. So now you know this part. CCl4 is very dangerous because couple of examples, self-explanatory, right?
Yeah.
Because his major disadvantage of CCl4 is that it is used to deplete the ozone layer, right? And anyway it is harmful for the human skins, can cause the cancer, can cause the eye disease, a lot of disorders, right, in the immune system.
Okay.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Now what is the freons? Now let's understand the freons. The CCl4, whatever we use, the compounds of methane and ethane are collectively known as the freons. Write on this part. So whenever the new term freon comes, so you know that freon is nothing but the tetrachlorides of the methane and the ethane. The combinations is called the freons. Right?
Yes, sir.
So chlorofluorocarbons. Now these are extremely stable, unreactive, non-toxic, non-corrosive and easily liquefiable gases. Extremely stable, unreactive, non-toxic, non-corrosive and easily liquefiable. Remember the 5-6 terms are there in this part. Freons are used basically as just like a noble gases right now, okay, because it's very stable, non-reactive, non-toxic, non-corrosive, and you can liquefy it also. So Freon 12 is one of the most common freons in industrial use. It is manufactured from the tetrachloromethane by the Schwarz reactions, and these are usually produced for the aerosol propellants, refrigerations, air conditioning purposes.
Okay.
And total for the even production in the world was 2 billion pounds annually. Most freon even are used in the refrigerations and eventually makes the way into atmosphere where it diffuses unchanged into the stratosphere, and the stratosphere freon is able to initiate the radical chain reactions that can upset the natural ozone balance. Again, freons is again same. Chlorofluorocarbons is again part of the compound which depletes the ozone layer. So mostly it is used as propellant, aerosol propellant, but anyway when it goes through the atmosphere, so it can deplete the ozone layer. It's also dangerous only. Next.
Okay.
Clear?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay. Now let's go to the PP dichloro diphenyl tetrachloroethane. So DDT. So write down the structure of DDT. Trichloro para dichloro diphenyl tetrachloromethane. Okay, tetrachloroethane. So first you write down the structure, then I'll explain to you the meaning here.
Okay.
So what we have done here is, so DDT is the first chlorinated organic insecticide, was originally prepared in 1873, but it was not until 1939. But Paul Miller of the Geigy Pharmaceuticals in Switzerland discovered the effectiveness of DDT as an insecticide. Paul Miller was awarded the Nobel Prize for Medicine and Psychology in 1948 for his discovery. The use of DDT increased enormously on the worldwide basis after World War II, and primarily because of the effectiveness against the mosquitoes that spreads the malaria and lice that carry the typhus. However, the problems related to the extensive use of DDT began to appear in the late 1940s. Many species of the insects developed the resistance to DDT, and it was also discovered to have the high toxicity towards the fish. So the chemical stability of DDT and its fat solubility compounds compounded the problem, and DDT is not metabolized very rapidly by the animals. Instead, it is deposited and stored in the fatty tissues, and if ingestion continues on a steady rate, DDT builds up within the animal over time, and use of DDT was banned in the United States in 1973. So DDT is again very bad for the environment. So look at the DDT is not metabolized, that means not digested, right? So it just gets deposited in terms of fatty tissues. So again it disturbs the food chain, right?
Okay.
The
Yeah.
food cycles get disturbed. Now DDT is full. What is DDT? DDT is nothing but, if you see the carbon tetrachloride, CCl4, and it's basically ethane. So you just consider the tetrachloroethane. Remove the two chlorine atoms. Instead of two chlorine atoms, you put the chlorobenzene.
Okay.
Chlorobenzene, when you put it at the carbon atom, so it becomes a dichlorophenyl.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
dichlorophenyl it becomes, and then you have a dichlorophenyl, and you have three more chlorines are there on the carbon atom. So basically total number of carbon atoms in the longest chain is 2 only, because it's ethane. On second carbon atom, instead of two chlorines, it is what is connected? It's connected the parachlorophenyl. Para means basically it's a para position. Chlorine is connected to the para positions.
Okay.
So paraphenyl, two paraphenyls are there. So basically dichloroparaffenyl and then trichloroethane. Got it? No? That's why it becomes a DDT.
Okay.
Understood?
Yes, understood.
Any questions? Any doubts, Vijay?
No, sir.
Structure
Clear.
they will be asking you, so make sure you remember the structure, because DDT structure, DDT structure is pretty simple. If you just understand primary structure is the ethane only, on that ethane only you just need to replace all the hydrogens with the chlorines and the parachlorophenyl. Clear?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Excellent, Vijay. So this completes the chapter for you, I guess, right?
Sorry, sir?
This completes the chapter for you.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Now you're good to go with the revision part and good to go with the exercise problems.
Yeah.
So don't leave even a single problem in the exercise. This is the right time you should go with the exercise problems. And then
Okay, sir.
let me know the doubts in this part. Whichever not clear to you, let me know so that we can discuss and close it.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Excellent, Vijay. Sure, fine. I think let's close it now. We'll continue this one in the next class. So you have much more thing to go. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, Vijay. Sure.
Bye, sir.
Bye.